bathroom today. Can you grab my iPad out of here? Stay open because the camera's... Oh, no. Okay. Come on. Now you can go. He'll come and talking. Okay. Good evening. Hello, everyone. I see you, Deja, coming through on YouTube. Hey, Jay Wright. What's up, Bishop? All right, let's see. Welcome in YouTube, Facebook, Periscope. I welcome in. I see the intercessors coming in strong. All right, intercessors. Chief Intercessor Joy, Kabibi. Hi, Dixie. Hello, Ann. Welcome. All right. Good evening. Hello to you, Ebony. Hello, Deja. And it looks like things are up and running. If y'all can hear me all right, then we're probably just going to get started. Yep, and I'm on Periscope. I don't know if I can see who is on. Never quite understand how these apps work. Thank you for the hearts on Periscope. I see you. Minister Maria. Hello, Minister Misha, as she travels. Minister Ebony. Hello and welcome. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And if you can go ahead and greet others, say hello. If you would just take a moment for me and click like and share, please. We need that. Like and share. And remember, we are now on podcasts on Apple iTunes. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, whole plethora of others that I just never can remember because the name isn't as popular. So you can check us out. A lot of the talking and some of the live instances that happen at the beginning are cut out also. So you are really getting some good information that is not later on the podcast. So appreciate it. We cut out the first few minutes to get rid of all the politics of business that we do have to take care of, but later on a podcast and sometimes on YouTube for reshowings, we go ahead and cut it out after we are done. But welcome tonight to Sex and the Soul. Our topic tonight is, can I be expecting too little? Not too much. Can I be expecting too little from my better half, from my spouse, from the opposite sex? And we're dealing with our series, Sex and the Soul. Yay! How's everyone doing tonight? I pray that you're blessed and that you are prospering, just being alone in the land of the living, and seeing things coming your way. Good things are happening. So again, if you can remember to click like and to please share in someone's inbox, share on someone's Facebook page. It will be on their timeline, and someone else can maybe get some breakthrough. We can heal a marriage, cause a couple to desire hope again, to maybe trigger a couple to be inspired to try counseling before they put an end to it. And most of all, to encourage young men and young women to not follow in the mistakes that some of us have made, to course correct some things in their life, to even know that it's not too late to come back home and to do this work over again. Is that all right to say? To do this work over again. So let me read my introduction for you. Let's see. All right, I don't have my regular book in front of me. I have the ebook, but I thought I highlighted in here. Well, whether you desire to marry or not, strength and respect are your God-given birthrights. You can find the door out of destructive patterns, destructive relationships, destructive thinking with regards to relationships, male and female, and then recover the parts of your heart and soul you may feel you have lost. You actually can. It's entirely possible, but it is entirely up to you. That's part of what I do, and I want to help you on your journey. So tonight, you are my client. I am your coach and counselor. We are alone in my office, so take a seat, put your feet up, and let's start our session tonight. I want you to understand that as human beings inspired by the breath of God, that you have been designed for deep and lasting attachments, deep and lasting love. You are special as someone's daughter or son, as someone's mother or father, as someone's aunt or uncle, sister or brother, or a friend. No matter what you achieve or accomplish in your life, you are empty without relationships. And I'm talking about relationships of duration and depth. Something that I believe our generation can learn from us. Amen? All right, let's go. I'm going to read you a quote tonight, and the quote is coming from Danielle Crittenden. And this is her quote: carelessly, thoughtlessly, casually, sex in the short space of a single generation went from being the culminating act of committed love to being a precondition, a tryout for future involvement, if at all any. When a man and woman falls in love, it's a delicate, breathtaking, beautiful dance. But in a generation, it's now become a high-stakes tango. Two people, they leave separate existences and walk into an unknown future because they believe it will be better together. Can I read that part again? Two people from separate existences, separate lives, walk into an unknown future together. Why does anyone want to do this? Because they have to believe that it will be better together. Not perfect, but better together. And for a woman, as much as we may pretend otherwise, the secret longing of our hearts is for a man to really put himself out there for us. To be wooed, to be won, as a woman whose heart is worth going a bit to bat, a bit of trouble if necessary for her. Let me say it clearly as I know how. You are made to be wooed and won. The old words would have been chosen, would have been courted. You are made to be wooed and won by a guy who sees the uniqueness. Can you say that word, uniqueness? There's a uniqueness about each and every one of us. To be wooed and won, to be dated, courted, appreciated, to be offered true friendship by a guy or a gal who sees the uniqueness of who you are. And this should mirror the great romance of the ages of a God who turned the world upside down to capture our love and to bring us to our true home in Him. The longing for beauty. Let's talk about that for a moment. There's a longing for beauty. Even in the age of playing everything cool, the human longing to experience the beauty of relationship still shows up in full force. I know we have so many other things that are offering us short-term fulfillment, immediate lust, fake love, get your credit card out and get on a 1-900 line, or however this generation does it now, probably through apps. You are led to believe that you can be offered love by some of the most beautiful and finest looking specimens in the globe. But how many know that still deep inside of you, there's a human longing that you can't get away from? And it's a human longing to experience the beauty of relationship. I hear it all the time from young men and young women. You would be surprised how many young men are looking for the older generation of men to show them what it's like to be man, not dictator, but man. What it's like to be honored and respected and appreciated as man, not as dictator. I want you to understand and see this beauty that can be captured on occasions at weddings against a backdrop in which everyone present knows the couple. We all know who we're sitting there, and we're seeing the beauty, and we're hearing the vows, and we're capturing the moments, and we're seeing the twinkle and the love in their eye. But for most of us sitting there, we know that against this backdrop, in which everyone there knows at some point during the procession, the ceremony, or the reception, that this couple is going to face their own share, their own measure of heartache and trouble. And it's going to be not too far ahead. However, as each pledge love and commitment to the other in the face of the great unknown, we have to unveil the secret that this is the marriage feast. This is the wedding ceremony. But there's going to be troubles up ahead, and we have to be prepared for the troubles up ahead, because what's being sold and marketed and is very appealing and branded in the world is that the grass is greener on the other side of marriage. It takes courage to marriage. It takes courage to be in a relationship. It takes courage to make up your mind to be with someone, for two people to choose to be with only each other. It takes courage. Courage is required. And if you really think about it, it is staggering. The bridegroom awaits even now. The bride is making herself ready for the day when the bridegroom has promised to present herself to himself without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish. If you know the Word of God, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't, this is wonderful poetry for you. Follow us. When the soil of your heart is primed to receive love, this courting dance is a clean and beautiful thing. There is a simple, timeless beauty to this courting dance itself. Discovering someone you click with, having him go out of his way to be with you, having her change appointments and plans with her girlfriends to be with you. Do you remember those? Did you ever have that? Feeling completely at home together, and an experience an odd, inconsolable ache when you are away from each other. When the soil of your heart is primed to receive love, this courting dance is a clean and beautiful thing. Every generation recognizes this beauty and bows its head in wonder. Even the book of Proverbs, that ancient source of wisdom, comments on this dance. Let me indulge you. There are three things that are too amazing for me. And four that I do not understand. Let me rewind. There are three things that are too amazing for me, says the word of God, and one that I just do not understand. One, the way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a snake on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, and the way of a man with his maiden. I should mention that the word amazing in this text is literally the word beautiful in Hebrew. So the height of beauty and sheer inscrutable mystery is the way an eagle soars in the sky, or a ship sails on a bright blue sea, or a man and woman when they fall in love. If you and I were not tuned to what the beauty of a good relationship, we would not be appalled when things turn out cheap and ugly. Somehow we know a relationship is not meant to degenerate into abandonment or even jealous rage. Where does this come from? In the place of love. Where does this come to? In the purity of vows. Where does jealous rage fit in such pureness in love? We're going to talk about that. But somehow we know a relationship is not meant to be this way. There is nothing more beautiful. There is nothing beautiful at all, as a matter of fact. There's nothing beautiful at all about a broken heart. And abandonment and jealous rages will lead you to that place. The relationship should work out, or the two parties in a decent peace. I suggest that we consider the strange and macabre role that sex plays in all that pain. When the potential for goodness and beauty is so great, how then does sex usher in its own sort of ugly? Sex? Ugly? How does this even fit in? How does the dance end in bloodied toes? Can it be from expecting too little from our mates? Let's go. One way in which the beauty of the dance is being lost is that allowing sex to be a part of a dating relationship invites men to be their worst selves. Come on, men. All right. Come on. I can hear you. I can feel you. I can sense you. Come with me. Let's be honest tonight. We need your male leadership. We need your vulnerability and your truth. One way, women, in which the beauty of the dance is being lost is that allowing sex to be part of a dating relationship invites men to be their worst selves. Let me tell you, I'm quoting from a psychologist here. I believe her name was Dr. Paula Rinehart. Indeed, it is a common complaint among women. Men seem to be more boorish, as though they have a right to expect sexual favors. When a journalist, Laura Sessions, conducted dozens of interviews with girls whose introduction to sex was a series of hooking up experiences, she concluded that without having previously experienced the thoughtfulness of decent boyfriends, many girls sadly have no idea what they should even expect. Let's go. Do you remember? There's a song out, and she's using this song. I've never heard of it before. But do you remember Bega's hit song a few years back? And a catchy little mambo tune. He sang about wanting a little bit of Sandra all night long. Then he sang about wanting a little bit of Mary. And oh, while he was at it, a little bit of Jessica. And for these little bits of women, he was gallantly willing to be their man for a moment while he was getting his little bit. How did we ever convince ourselves that this was normal? Who told you that you should accept this and that this was acceptable to you? The really sad part is that when we expect too little from a man, when we let him get by with his boorish self, we disrespect him. Let it go from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet. I'm going to let it process through. Let me read it again. The really sad part is that when we expect too little from a man, when we let him get by with his boorish self, we disrespect him. Wow, now that's a thought. Why? Because he is capable of so much more. And he knows this. Men rise to the level of a woman's expectations. One of my brothers in the gospel asked to get on and talk for the male segment part. And I think I'm going to actually do it, especially for this segment right here. So maybe towards the end of the teaching, I'm going to pull him in online with me. And we're going to talk about this expectations from men and the disrespect that we really give to men when we have no expectations of them. Why? Because men is capable of so much more. And men know this. Men rise to the level of women's expectations. They always have. So when we see them as sexual objects and when we permit them to treat us as sexual objects, we both become something less human. When was the last time a guy went out of his way to do a thoughtful thing for you? If he attempts to open a door for you, do you feel appreciated and valued? Or do you feel you're too weak to open the door for yourself? What's your mentality towards this treatment that this man is trying to give you? He's trying to show you your value and your worth to him. He can't speak for the guys before him. He can't speak for your gals. He can't speak for your family. He cannot speak for your mother or father what their value is. But he can show you through little simple things as opening a door for you. But when a guy does this for you, I've actually seen a woman in the store kind of go off on this guy who held the door for her. I'm not weak and I have hands. And I was like, ooh, when did we get to that point? When did that become wrong? When did it become not just a rejection from a man, but an insult to him? I mean, even as a human being, would it have mattered if he was a woman and held the door? It threw me for a minute. I got in my car and I had to sit there. If a man, I want you to ask yourself this. If a man attempts to open a door for you, do you feel appreciated and valued? Or do you feel you are weak and you cannot open the door for yourself? What does that action do to you? Maybe it would be wise to just stand there and see. Can I let myself look for thoughtful, considerate behavior from a guy and take the risk he might not do a thing? There's your soul work, not homework. I don't give homework. I give soul work. Here it is. Can I let myself look for thoughtful, considerate behaviors from a guy and take the risk he might not do a thing? Trust me, he will in time. As we'll see further down in the teachings, a man is put on the planet with the responsibility. A man is put on the planet. I need to repeat tonight. He's put on the planet with the responsibility to look beyond his own self-interest and to care for others. Think about Genesis. What was the duty of Adam? What was the duty of Adam after he failed God? His responsibility is to look after the planet. He's put on the planet for that reason. And to look beyond his own self-interest. And then to care for others. That is the duty of a man. But if we women do not grasp this reality, then often, and quite often, he won't either. So what you're fussing about or what you're dating but not receiving, could it be you? Could you be the stumbling block to what you want? Allowing a relationship to turn sexual sends a signal that men read clearly. Want to know what the signal is? Come on, I want you to ask me. Allowing a relationship to turn sexual sends a signal that men read clearly. Come on, ask me what it is. I'm going to give you a second because I know we're on a little delay. Trust me, he will in time meet all of the considerations that you're asking for. Because a man is put on the planet with the responsibility to look beyond his own self-interest and to care for the garden, to care for others. But if we women do not grasp this reality, then often he won't either. Allowing a relationship to turn sexual sends a signal that men read clearly. What is the message that they read clearly? What does it say to them? Are you ready? That he does not have to be responsible. And guess what the message is to a greater layman's term? As plain as it can be. He doesn't have to be responsible for you. The very thing you're asking for him, the very thing that you desire, the thoughts that you have, the things you get upset about him, you are sending the message to him. You don't have to be responsible for me. You don't have to be responsible for this house. Because I'm sending you signals that are telling you I have no expectations of you and I don't need you to be considerate. And don't bother showing me how valuable I am because I'm just not that type of girl. I'm just desperate and thirsty and hungry and I'm going to do everything and handle everything and I have no expectations of you. I'm just going to serve you for the rest of my days. And you've sent a message to him that he does not have to be responsible for you. In the great androgynous experiment we have lived through, where it seems weak to expect a man to treat you differently because you are a woman, we have raised a generation of men who are trained to think that women are just like them. To give us special treatment would imply that we are needy in ways that men are not. We cannot be too surprised at men's boorish behavior. If sex is what they want from a relationship, they assume this is what a woman wants too. Did you hear what I said? To give us special treatment. These are the messages that we're sending women. To give us special treatment would imply that we are needy in ways that men are not. We cannot be surprised then at a man's boorish behavior. If sex is what we want, if sex is what they want from a relationship, they automatically assume it's what you want as well. But no, the word no has historically been seen as a woman's rightful prerogative. But in today's sexual climate, no is interpreted by many men as a personal rebuke to something they thought they had a right to expect. Men are getting away with appalling behavior towards women, but we are letting them get away with it and then refusing to admit it to ourselves. There's a social commentator, again, Danielle Crittenden, that says the problem is the refusal to admit to ourselves that because we have no value of ourselves, no self-love, and no self-respect, no matter who never taught it to us, let's just deal with because there's no value here, there's no self-respect, and there's no self-love, we feel we do not have a right to expect it from anyone else. And brothers, sons, it goes the same way for you. You're going to have to learn to value yourself over your material goods. You're going to have to learn to value your own self-love over the love of another woman, because mama may have failed that big in that department. So you may get with a woman and all she needs to do is love you. She can treat you like crap in every other way. But as long as you believe that she loves you, you're going to stay in a toxic relationship because the one thing that you didn't get is the thing that you're getting from her. And you think that that is enough, and it is not. We need to admit to ourselves that we're lacking in our own value. We're lacking in our own self-respect, and we're lacking in our own self-love. So therefore, we don't feel we have the right to expect it from anyone else, or we may not even recognize that they should be giving us something more. So you married something that matched who you were then. And now you've learned a little bit. You have a little value for yourself, a little self-love, a little self-respect. What happens now with that person who has not learned what you learned? These are all soul work. Things to think about that are going on in your soul, because your unhappiness is not completely the other person. You have sent messages and signals. No matter how conscious or unconscious, you sent the signals, and you never waited for interpretation or understanding to find out what they received from your signals. Signals as holding a door for you. Signal as running your bath water. Signal is a text of I love you. a signal of no in the dating relationship. Men know this, and that's why there's no expectations in a dating relationship that you can expect from them anymore. And again, I don't blame them. The power of a woman's words. Let me continue. Allowing a relationship to turn sexual sends a signal that men read clearly. You don't have to be responsible. It tells a guy that very little is expected of him. And sure enough, he conforms to this expectation. It is no compliment to a man. It is no compliment to a man, however. He knows he is getting away with something, and part of him realizes that he does not deserve your respect, which is the male psyche, is the validation he most truly craves. Did you hear this, women? There's a book that's called The Power of a Woman's Words. I want you women to get it. Start a Bible study in your homes with a few women. They don't have to be married at all. Let's prepare them for marriage. Power of a Woman's Words. And have your meetings and meet with your Bible studies on your Zoom or whatever. Just a woman's Bible study. And go through the power of your words. Because you will be surprised how your words could burn a house down or build a house up. Let me read this again to you. You don't have to be responsible is the message you have given him now. It tells a guy that very little is expected of him. And sure enough, he conforms to this expectation. But it is no compliment to a man, however, because he knows he is getting away with something. Now listen, this is the poisonous part. This is where it makes us toxic. And part of him realizes that he does not deserve your respect, which is in the male psyche, the validation that he truly craves from you. Sexual license in a relationship tends to cancel out customary graces, as though telling the truth, even when it's hard or otherwise selfless acts are small, unimportant, and courtesies. It makes the whole dance more about what I'm getting than what I'm giving. And this is the beginning of the end in any relationship. Promiscuity is, by definition, a taking event. A loud way of saying, I will have my needs met, and as such, it paves the way for our worst characters to emerge. Have you noticed that in some crucial way, a man wants you to expect the world from him? Isn't that amazing? You wouldn't be able to tell me this if I hadn't studied it. No one passed this type of information down to most of us women. But have you noticed that in some crucial way, your man, that man, expects you to want to expect from him the world. And he will try his hardest to get it for you. He sees in the mirror of your expectations someone who believes the best about him. And if you see him as a guy worthy of respect, able to look out for you and for other people, someone who has his head together, then he believes it a little more of himself as well. You do him no favor when you expect too little. Wendy Shalit writes this: too many egalitarians equate male gentleness or protectiveness with subordination, while too many conservatives equate it with effeminacy. Both sides are wrong. A man should be gentle around a woman because that's part of what makes him a man. Sex in a relationship that you hope for, but it hinders you. Let's talk about that. Always this question emerges. Isn't sex in committed relationship a little bit injurious? Isn't sex in a committed relationship a little bit injurious? Even more, is it not totally understandable when it happens between a couple who have an understanding? I think we've given this titles. Throughout the different eras, we have given friends with benefits and sex between two couples who make no commitment. We've given this titles. We've branded this. We've made this cool and acceptable. We even made it where it's expected. We have this understanding of sorts that marriage is in the offing. Is not the beauty of the relationship even preserved anymore. This is a hard question to answer. If you compare it to building a house, think of it this way. It is like hoping the house can be built successfully, even though something is chipping away at the foundation as you build. It can be done. Good houses are constructed under duress, but who would willingly want to take the risk with the central human relationship of our lives, building something under duress? The major building block of a close and intimate relationship is trust. I'll say it again. The major building block of a close and intimate relationship is trust. Marriage vows are equivalent of looking someone straight in the eyes and saying this: as much as I am able, I trust you above all others in my life. Sex before marriage eats away at this very trust, allows the nagging question, hangs in the background. Always the nagging question hangs in the background. How would you feel about me if sex weren't in the picture? I want you to write that down in your journal too. Are you enjoying our session today? Remember, we're alone. It's one-on-one. No one else is here, but you are with your coach and counselor. And I'm giving you some takeaways. I'm giving you some soul work to go deep searching in yourself. Talk to some former relationships. Talk to your current relationship. And think about it. How would you feel about me if sex weren't in the picture? Do you love me for me? Don't get surprised at the answer. Don't shoot them at the gate. Do not ask the question until you are ready for the answer. And do not settle for the answer that you think you want to hear if you see in their eyes that they do not feel that they can be comfortable and honest to answer that question. If you're someone that always has to bring retribution to someone, when they're honest with you, you're probably not going to get the answer that you need to start a healthy relationship, to start a new life, to get out of destructive relationships, to heal yourself of your past. How would you feel about me if sex weren't in the picture? Well, what are you saying? Do you love me for me? Of course I do. Then ask, what are my expectations of you? Ask him, see if he even knows. And see if it's just a long laundry list that's just heartless and careless. Is it a servant boys list? Is it you got a list for him like he was your child? What are the expectations of him as man, as head, as husband? Couples who have sex before marriage find that jealousy and mistrust creep in more easily on the far side of the honeymoon. Couples who have sex before marriage find that jealousy and mistrust creep in more easily on the far side of the honeymoon. They know a boundary has been crossed in the past, since neither had the strength of will and character to prevent sexual intimacy between them. What's to keep them from crossing a sexual boundary again? Only this time with someone else. What am I saying? Ask me what I'm saying. Come on, I need a couple more people to ask me. Ask me, what am I saying here? What is it that I'm saying here? What I'm telling you here in this statement is that we get upset often when one or the other spouse cheats, steps out of the marriage, whether physically, sexually, or emotionally, and we get upset with them for it. But let me ask you a question. Did you set your marriage up to fail? Did you creep? Did you break character lines? Did you break boundary lines? Were you engaging in sexual intimacy with your spouse before you was married? Well, that's where the mistrust came in. Because if they did it with you, in the back of your mind, you were thinking they'd do it with someone else. But let's move even a little bit further out into the current, a little bit further out into the ocean on this one. Why are you expecting from them something you couldn't even give them? You could not even help strengthen your mate to abstain for the sanctity of building trust. This is where jealous rage is coming from. This is where mistrust come in the relationship from. You broke the original boundary. You tested each other's characters to the limit. You set yourself up to work against your restrictions. You tempted each other to break something that was between us, so it was special and it was love, only to find out that this was a ruling principle for marriage to be ordained under God, that when you break this, you are going to have these misfirings. You are going to have these boundaries of suspicion, of jealous rage. You are going to have this mistrust begin to creep in. You are mad at him or her for what? When you were the one that they broke it with in the beginning. I know everybody's not going to like me right now, but call me 222-9884 and we would love to help you restore what has been broken. It's not damaged goods. It's not yesterday's love. It just needs a little bit more tweaking. You need to be reminded that you broke the covenant first with her. You broke the covenant first with him. So now that it's being broken with other people, now you have a problem with it, get on your knees, pray and fast, and both of you get back up and start that thing new again in Christ Jesus. Especially with regard to marriage. You know why? Because sex clouds the issues at hand. I'm going to say it again. Sex clouds the issues at hand. It's so hard to think straight when you've had sex. I hear many men and women admit their marriage that they did not really know the person they married. In counseling session, I have heard people say a month after they got married, I have to admit, I really don't know the person that I married. We were having sex. My judgment was clouded. I was fascinated. I was turned up and turned out and turned in. And now that I'm meeting the person that I'm married, I don't know who I married. Sex filled in the spaces where you should have been getting to know your mate. After a while, they weren't sure if the attachment was to the person or to the sex. Come on, y'all. Tell me I'm not teaching good tonight. With regards to marriages, you have to understand that if you have sex before marriage, sex before relationship, you know, we were just fooling around for a couple of years and then it got serious. You messed that thing up. You are now with your fins stomping away, tramping around in the most precious ecosystem in the ocean. You're out there in your fins, tramping around in it and thinking you're not going to do any damage to the ecosystem because you think you've got a better way than God's way. You think you are better than all the other ones that came before you. That's what you thought. And now you got married, and what is it that you're getting? Sex clouds the issue at hand. Come on, I want you to say it with me. Sex clouds the issues at hand. How come you noticed this a month into the marriage, a year into the marriage? Why did it take you 3 years into the marriage? Because you was grooving and moving and sex clouded the issues that were at hand. It's hard to think straight, especially with good sex. I hear many men and women admit after marriage that they did not really know the person they married. Not well at all, because sex filled in the spaces when they should have been getting to know each other instead of getting to know each other. Everything got blurred, most couples would say. Combining sex with a serious relationship among two people, but still not yet married, is a bit like going to an art auction drunk, where you're intending to spend your life savings and you have no clue about it. If ever you needed to make a decision with your head, marriage, people, is it. If you've ever needed to be sober, if you've ever needed to make a sound decision in your life, it's called marriage. In human resources, where I was a director of human resources for many companies for many of years, we had extenuating circumstances when people could make adjustments to their life insurance, their medical insurance, or withdraw money from their retirement accounts. And these three important things were only opened up once a year. But through extenuating life circumstances, which we call in the HR world life-changing events. If you have a life-changing event, you are allowed to make these adjustments to these plans that are usually only done once a year. Isn't that amazing? So what am I saying to you here? Sex is one of those life-changing events. It's not buying a car that you could trade in for. It's not buying a car with a 30-day warranty. You don't get a 30-day warranty on a marriage, no matter how many marriages you've had before it. There's no warranty. There's no guarantee. You cannot go on with a list of expectations. You cannot hold him to be an angel or expect her to wear a halo. That is not what marriage is. It's two people that say, I know I'm going to mess up. Are you really going to mess up? And when I do mess up, I want to trust that you won't leave me. And when we get things together, I want to trust that you're going to walk with me for the rest of my life. That's marriage. But who talks about that? We are the knight in shining armor in the Princess of Frozen or something. Everything's get blurred. Marriage is a life-changing event. And when you don't care enough to be sober in that decision, then you give God, the kingdom, and your family and the children a bad name for what you are doing with marriage that God ordained in front of them. This is the time that you need to make a decision with soundness of mind. Who is this woman? Who is this man? What is his heart really like? That's your soul work. Give it to your spouse to do. Give it to your best friend or whoever it is you're dating in whatever situation and circumstance that you have accepted, this understanding that you have. Do this with them. Ask them, who am I? And then what is my heart really like? Do this together with each other. So let me move on before it's almost time to go. Devaluing yourself as a woman. Devaluing yourself as a woman. One rainy day, I'm reading you a story now, it's a testimony. One rainy fall day, a woman came to this psychologist's office and told this psychologist how tired she was of the whole relationship scene altogether. What she meant was that she had gone from one relationship to the next for the last 6 years. And she despaired of ever finding a guy she would want to bring home to her parents. I'm seeing a man right now who seems almost too good to be true, she said a little wistfully. It's only been a couple of months, but I'm just waiting for him to stop calling or to make up someone else or some other reason. Are you telling me that you're seeing red flags in this relationship? Is what was asked, thinking maybe that he wasn't as good as she was making him out to be in the beginning. No, she said quickly, it's not him at all. It's me. I've been wounded and I've been hurt and I've been undervalued and underappreciated more often than I've been valued and appreciated. So I'm waiting for this one. I'm waiting for him to find something about me that he doesn't like, doesn't need, or can find better. There must be something I'm missing. This is how our sexual past can screw up a perfectly good relationship in the present. These men who have come and gone have twisted your minds out of shape. We believe lies about ourselves. I don't deserve to be loved. I have some hidden flaw that will mess everything up. When this man discovers I'm not perfect as I pretended to be, he'll leave, just like they always do. This is where the dance between men and women loses nearly all of its beauty. This kind of self-devaluation becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. How you see yourself becomes the way you invite others to see you. Shall I repeat that? How you see yourself becomes the way you invite others to see you. Come on, one more time for the Holy Spirit. How you see yourself is how you invite others to see you. So where's the problem here? You're frustrated with everyone else, but could you have possibly been the culprit, the self-sabotager in your own life that have invited people to see you the way they're treating you? Soul work. Truthfully, I know of no way out of this dark place in the forest other than turning to a love that is bigger and deeper than any man's. The cleansing, restoring love of Christ. You can try every self-help remedy out there, but none None of them get to the source of the pain, the shame of seeing yourself as less than lovable. I am often drawn back to a story in the Gospel of John of a woman who knew more shame and rejection than most of us will ever encounter in a lifetime. Picture the scene for me. It is early in the morning. The sun is just beginning to warm the stones beneath bare feet. Jesus is preparing to teach in the temple courts, but a loud commotion interrupts him. A woman, half naked, shamed out of her skin, is dragged before Jesus by a group of men who want to stone her to death, as the law allows. Her sin? Having been caught in the act of adultery. No one rises to this woman's defense. She makes no plea, no attempt to escape. She has no advocate. She is stripped of honor and of any sense of worth. Come on, I'm coming into your houses tonight. Who am I talking to? The Holy Spirit is coming to visit your heart right now. No sense of honor, stripped of honor and any sense of self-worth. She's being dragged before her king. She's put before him. And the people that have put her there are not even really concerned about her own adultery, and certainly are not concerned about her at all. Their only goal is to trap Jesus. Will Jesus uphold the law that permits her stoning? Legally guilty. How will he deal with a guilty woman? Jesus does not answer her accusers at first. He stoops down and writes in the dirt something so mysterious that even to this day is unrecorded in our text. Then he issues a challenge that turns everyone on its heels. Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw the stone at her. He says, and one by one, beginning with the oldest, the men walk away until Jesus is alone with this woman. She could run away easily now and hide in the shadows of her shame, but she chooses to stay with the one person who could justifiably cast the stone. She is in no hurry to leave. Perhaps this is the first time in her life she has felt entirely safe in a man's company. Jesus straightens up and looks into her eyes. Probably the first time someone has looked into her eyes with appreciation. And this moment is just between the two of them. Woman, where are they? That's what the Holy Spirit is asking you today. Where are they? Where are they? Where's the line of them? Where are they? All of them who violated, who took your youth for advantage. Those who never intended to keep the vow that they promised to you, even in the house of God, in front of the presence of God. Where are they? Where are the accusers? Has no one condemned you? And she picks her head up gently and she says, no one, sir. Then neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin. That's what I should have titled it today. Go now and leave your life of sin. There's a close friend who for years has coached people through significant life change. Says that people never really change very deeply until someone catches them in their shame and is not appalled. You hear that? Let me read it again. There's an author, there's a psychologist that says and stands by this. People never really change, not deep change, until someone catches them in their shame and is not appalled by it. That's exactly what happened in this story. Jesus caught this woman in the place where everyone else would have thrown her away. The church would have thrown her away. The place of her sin and shame. Yet he takes her by the hand and leads her to freedom. This story holds the secret to how any of us discovers the love of God in the places of our souls that are broken and wounded and filled with mistrust, heartbroken, jealous rages, insecurities, no value. The place that we would most often hide from our God is the place that Jesus sees and he needs to get into. The broken place, the shameful place, the hidden place, the sinful places in us where we have sought every other lover but his, where we feel like a prostitute, where we think of ourselves as undeserving of love, where we know that no one who saw us this way would want us. Jesus does not turn away. He steps right into the mess we have made and offers us another stone of, and not another stone of condemnation, but of all things, mercy. Without minimizing in the slightest way of what we have done, he offers us mercy. We can now go home. In fact, he is the home we go to. And he gives us the power to live vastly different lives. Out of this place where we have been loved in our shame, we come to know ourselves as worthy women or worthy men, worthy of love. And this love changes everything. Knowing yourself as a man or as a woman worthy of love is a very different place from which to relate. The secret of most relationships is that others follows our cues. The secret of most relationships is that others follow our cues. If we have no respect for ourselves, we invite others to disrespect. If we have been embraced by a love as vast and as powerful as the love of Jesus, we will know what to hope for from a man or a woman. We will know, and we will not be willing to take the crumbs from under the table of love. If there is no real investment in a relationship, no active reunification of all others, no willingness to sacrifice my interest for your interests, the whole affair starts to smell. It quickly wilts and it withers. Passion is made of sturdier things, and the foremost among them is courage. Unless we are truly brave hearts, we cannot waltz with a man or a woman in a dance worth dancing. What no one ever actually says out loud is that this delicate, beautiful dance between a man and a woman leads to a cliff. There, dressed in their finest, before an assembled crowd of friends and family, they hold hands and jump together into the air, for better or for worse. I'm going to read it again. For better or for worse, in sickness and in health, forsaking all others, parted only by death. They promise to love each other in their unlovable moments. They promise to love each other in their unlovable moments and to offer respect in times where there is not a heaping lot to admire about them. They literally bet the entire farm. It is right that they do so because beauty requires this kind of courage. Always. The author of that is Frederick Buckner. They say they will love, comfort, honor each other to the end of their days. They say they will cherish each other and be faithful to each other always. They say they will do these things not just when they feel like it, but even ... when they don't feel like it at all. In other words, the vows they make at marriage could hardly be more extravagant. Courage comes in many forms. For many, it takes shape by degrees. I think of a woman, for instance, who felt she needed to make a sharp break in the way she had been relating to men. She felt God was leading her into a place of deeper vulnerability as a woman. The vulnerability of not sharing a sexual relationship with the guys she dated. In the past, it had been easier to relate physically to guys. Sex kept them happy, and she felt temporarily secure. To check sex at the door and offer a man just me, myself and I, require far more guts. Gone was her old sense of feeling in control. Real vulnerability always translates into courage. Moreover, it takes courage to let your sexual life go dormant once it has been up and running. Sex is the convergence of many sensations, an incomparable experience. But when sexual desire is awakened before its time, desire becomes lust. And lust is restless and shrouded in shame. As Lisa Bevere states, eventually the experience itself is spoiled. If you've been awakened to sex, then you know that allowing this part of your life to rest, to go dormant, brings questions of real trust and courage. If I let this go, come on, say it with me. If I let this go, will I experience it again? Because that's the fear you're going to have to confront. And you may have to do this every single day until the fear is gone. If I let this go, will I experience it again? Will God resurrect the experience of sexual intimacy? If I marry in a way that will make all I've known seem like a faded postcard from a place I was never meant to visit. And finally, if you have felt burned in your relationships, it takes courage to let yourself hope and hope again. For all of the good a man or a woman has to offer, the makings of romance is hidden in the hunger for this kind of strength and solidness that men or a woman would bring to your life. Something uniquely and wonderfully that your counterpart cannot be replicated in friendships with other men or women. To cup your hands around the flame and protect it from the winds of disappointment until the right man or woman comes along is no small thing. It is an enormous act of courage. This kind of inner waiting, this willingness to hope, is right at the heart of being a man or a woman who is preparing to enter the dance of your life. That is all I have for you tonight. We have finished our soul section on tonight. I pray that you were blessed, and I pray that you will tune in again with us next Sunday at 8 p.m. And I also invite you to be relevant and email us your questions, your testimony. We want to hear it. I would love to know where you're at in this sexual healing. I would also like to know what some of the vows and promises you are making to yourself. What are you going to do to incorporate self-love, self-respect, and value into this package that you're going to be offering to someone one day or re-representing in your current relationship? Because if someone wants you just for your body, that splits you. It means that you are good to him or her only for parts and pieces. And that's just not enough for you anymore. So I want to thank you for being on tonight. Again, this will be on YouTube. It will be uploaded and placed on YouTube tonight. And it will also be for podcast availability on Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and about 5 other places. You can find out by visiting my website, www.suzannemhoward.com. You can email me at info at SuzanneMHoward.com. I look forward to seeing you there. If you want to sow a seed, we thank everyone from their seeds from $1 to 1,000. You can Cash App Suzanne M. Howard, or you can again visit the website. Everything you need on there. You want to chat, you want prayer, you want to go through healing and deliverance, you want to sow, you want to know what's coming up next in the teaching, where we're going to be at once the pandemic is over. All of that is on the website. It's a good base to have. It's an app. You can even download the app on your phone, and it's available to you at all times. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in tonight. God bless you all. I pray above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. God bless you and good night.